Subject designation, crawling chrome echoform. Phase, transitional posture. Neural implant active. This specimen exhibits a fusion of synthetic containment and organic musculature. The exposed cerebral mass is unshielded, suggesting a design optimized for mnemonic transmission rather than protection. Muscle fiber interfaces are visible beneath chrome exoskeletal plating. These fibers are striated, tension-bearing, and partially vascularized, indicating a hybrid origin. The specimen's posture is low, quadrupedal, yet not fully grounded. Current phase suggests emergence from containment, a half-rise indicative of cognitive activation or environmental response. Embedded within the anterior cortex is a golden implant, circuitry consistent with Class 4 echoform memory retrieval systems. Purpose remains speculative. Movement patterns suggest non-aggressive intent. Likely function, memory echo, environmental scanning, or passive archival relay. No vocalization detected. All data transmitted via neural pulse. Subject designation, scrap foam reclaimer. Salvage state, mnemonic reach. Plating asymmetrical. This specimen exhibits a fused layering of rusted containment plating and decomposed organic substrate. The structural logic is uneven, plating warped, bolted, and interspersed with fibrous, bark-like textures. The fusion suggests adaptive repair and mnemonic retention. The cranial mass is asymmetrical and heavily plated, with a recessed sensor embedded off-center. No facial features are present. Wiring and corrosion surround the sensor, reinforcing passive scanning behavior. Both arms are extended in a retrieval posture, fingers splayed for environmental probing. The gesture appears non-aggressive, likely designed for salvage interfacing rather than manipulation. Rear tendrils trail from the upper back, tethered to unknown archival systems. These cables remain stable, with no visible discharge. Anchor plating is reinforced, suggesting long-term containment. Posture is upright but uneven, with weight distributed asymmetrically across the lower limbs. Movement patterns suggest passive salvage and environmental memory extraction. Purpose remains speculative. Likely function, mnemonic salvage, archival tethering, and containment interface. No vocalization detected. All data presumed retrieved via tactile probe or internal relay. Subject designation, conjoined divergent. Phase, directional recursion, locomotion repurposed. This specimen exhibits dual torsal architecture fused at the abdomen, each half crawling in symbolic opposition. The fusion point is reinforced with adaptive plating and subtle dermal tension, suggesting failed bifurcation or mnemonic drift. Bilateral duplication of the upper limbs are present, prosthetic arms terminating in foot-like appendages. These limbs support the body in low-profile containment, repurposing locomotion in the absence of resolution. The feet exhibit wear and articulation consistent with adaptive override, not original design. Facial features are bowed and closed, each head bearing distinct emotional cadence. One appears furrowed, the other serene, reinforcing the internal divergence. The posture remains horizontal, suspended in perpetual crawl. Vocalization detected. Human origin. Dialect unknown. Utterances are low frequency, non-repetitive. No linguistic match in archival lexicon. Presumed mnemonic discharge or emotional recursion. Purpose remains speculative. Likely function, mnemonic bifurcation prototype, symbolic containment, and adaptive locomotion override. Subject designation, spinal cantilever. Phase, passive suspension. Load-bearing arc. This specimen consists of a segmented vertebral structure fused with tarnished plating and asymmetrical fasteners. The arc is anchored at both ends, one bolted to containment wall, the other braced against the floor. No limbs, cranial mass, or sensory appendages are present. The structure is non-vocal, non-mobile, and fully passive. Each vertebra is pitted and weathered, resembling fossilized bone. Surface texture suggests dermal remnants and archival erosion. Plating is uneven, some segments reinforced, others rusted or recessed. Diagnostic ports are embedded intermittently, with several exposed nodes indicating incomplete calibration or archival wear. No tethering cables are active. The Ark remains untethered, held in place by structural tension and environmental inertia. Overlay ports labeled load anchor, torsion relay, and residual strain interface suggest containment logic focused on emotional strain distribution. Posture is arched and static. No movement detected. The curvature implies suspended burden, neither collapsed nor upright. Emotional logic suggests symbolic endurance, architectural resilience, and mnemonic scaffolding. Purpose remains speculative. Likely function, strain containment, emotional anchoring, and symbolic support structure for adjacent specimens. No vocalization detected. All data presumed held in passive plating and recessed relay. Subject designation, mechaform fetus. Phase, curled containment. Shell incomplete. This specimen exhibits a partial fusion of exposed musculature and corroded exoshell plating. The structural logic is embryonic, plating uneven, recessed, and interrupted by raw, sinewy tissue. The fusion suggests suspended formation and restrained emergence. The cranial mass is fully plated, smooth and featureless, with a recessed sensor embedded near the base. No facial features are present. The plating curves inward, anchoring the head in a bowed, fetal posture. Subtle mist gathers near embedded heat sink nodes, suggesting internal regulation. Limbs are curled inward, with one arm partially extended. Fingers are elongated and clawed, resting gently against the containment floor. The gesture appears non-aggressive, likely designed for passive environmental interfacing or mnemonic intake. No rear tendrils are present. Tethering ports remain dormant, with no visible discharge. The absence of active cables suggests untethered containment or internal relay. Posture is low and coiled, with weight distributed evenly across the curled limbs. Movement patterns suggest suspended animation and internal signal compression. Purpose remains speculative. Likely function, embryonic preservation, mnemonic stasis, and symbolic containment. No vocalization detected. All data presumed held in latent relay or internal pulse. Subject designation, thoracic lattice. Phase, passive containment. Breath scaffold. This specimen presents as a rib-like framework anchored by a central fleshy core. 12 curved struts extend symmetrically from the core, resembling a partial thoracic cage. No limbs, cranial mass, or sensory appendages are present. The structure is non-vocal, non-mobile, and fully passive. Each rib is smooth and pale, with subtle texture variations and restrained curvature. The spacing is even, suggesting architectural intent rather than biological function. The central core is reddish and tapered, with vascular detail visible beneath the surface, implying suspended breath or mnemonic tension. No plating or tethering cables are present. The lattice stands freely, supported by the curvature of its lowest ribs and environmental inertia. No overlay ports are active. The structure remains untethered, held in place by emotional scaffolding and anatomical symmetry. Posture is upright and static. No movement detected. The form implies containment without compression, breath held, not expelled. Emotional logic suggests symbolic restraint, internal resonance, and mnemonic preservation. Purpose remains speculative. Likely function, emotional containment, symbolic breath architecture, and passive support structure within the archive. No vocalization detected. All data presumed held in vascular trace and structural rhythm. Subject designation, segmental relay form. Phase, dormant transmission posture. Luminal nodes active. This specimen exhibits a segmented fusion of organic tissue and biomechanical containment. The spinal architecture is modular, with each segment encased in metallic banding and embedded with luminal emitters, suggesting recursive signal behavior. The anterior limbs are insectoid and mechanical, terminating in claw-like appendages. These appear non-aggressive, likely designed for environmental interfacing rather than locomotion. The specimen's posture is low and coiled, with the cranial mass held close to the ground. No facial features are present. Current phase suggests passive relay, a mnemonic ripple held in stasis. Rear conduits extend from the final segment, tethered to unknown external systems. These cables remain stable, with no visible discharge. Purpose remains speculative. Movement patterns suggest dormant scanning. Likely function: segmented memory transmission, environmental mapping, or archival containment. No vocalization detected. All data presumed transmitted via luminal pulse.